Hi, we're here today at the Marketo Conference in Las Vegas, and I'm joined by Matt Heinz, CEO of Heinz Marketing, and we're going to talk about marketing throughout the entire buyer's journey. So Matt, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So jumping right into it, you call this approach to marketing throughout the buyer's journey the full funnel framework. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, I mean, very simply, it's encouraging marketers to think beyond just awareness and lead generation, right? I really want marketers to have full revenue responsibility through the entire buying cycle, through the entire sales cycle. One way to think about that is if I asked marketers to be responsible for sales productivity and increasing sales closing rates, that would get marketers into more of a sales enablement type function in addition to demand generation, lead management. So when I think full funnel, I think about that, supporting that entire buyer journey. Not always thinking about it in terms of funnel either, right? I don't think it's really not fair to think that a bunch of buyers are working linearly through a funnel anymore.
Right, we don't really see that approach anymore. It's kind of more of an ongoing process through purchase and on to advocacy, right?
Absolutely, yeah, and I really like the Microsoft figure eight approach doing that, right? I mean, it's some people think of it as a cloud or an amoeba, and prospects come in and out. But so I think understanding the entire life cycle of not just the prospect, but the buyer and the customer, where that becomes lifetime value, that becomes referrals, it begets more business. Thinking about that entire framework is important, and I think the more marketers can embrace that entire journey, the more successful they're going to be, and the more they'll be positioned to be a profit center within the business as opposed to just a cost center.
Great. So let's get into that. What are some of the biggest challenges or mistakes that people make when they're trying to implement this framework? Particularly, I like how you call out thinking about kind of generating some of those leads and those lead generation activities early versus kind of a lot of the pressure from the sales side to focus on that middle or kind of bottom of the funnel area where you're seeing kind of you're hoping to see more of the close rates and things like that. How do you actually get people to focus on kind of some of those upper funnel activities?
Well, I think first is aligning with sales around what the objectives are, right? The objective is not a set of leads. The objective is not a set of retweets. The objective is close business. The objective is customer satisfaction. The objective is lifetime value. And so I think it expands the scale and the scope of things that marketers can focus on. It makes it more difficult sometimes to triage those things, but it encourages them to think more about sales enablement efforts. It encourages them to think more about actively facilitating and fostering customer success early on in the purchase cycle. So I think it really forces the marketers to be broader in the way they think and be more accountable to revenue as an output of that.
So going a little bit deeper on that, one of the things that we see as a big challenge when we're talking to our partners about how they invest, and some of the things that we actually even do internal to our organization, is we do tend to invest in those activities where we'll see very quick gains.
Yeah.
And then when you're actually looking to invest in things that are going to be a little bit longer term in terms of the results, we kind of get away from some of those things. How do you advise people on making sure that they're investing kind of long term on activities that maybe take 6 months to produce closed revenue?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with moving quickly and being agile and delivering quickly, but I think good marketing requires a long view. Like if you're going to produce content and leverage content across the buyer journey, that's not something you can necessarily do next week. I think it's important for marketers to take the long view in terms of the broader impact their business can have, broader impact their initiatives can have, really sort of becoming a key part of the demand gen engine. That's not something that's built right away. And certainly as you build that, it's totally fine to fly the airplane while you build it. But I think knowing that you need to be investing in a repeatable, scalable engine for growth as opposed to random acts of marketing. I think when you can get an executive team to buy off on that, in part because the marketing team has said, we're embracing revenue responsibility. We're willing to take responsibility and be measured based on revenue output and customer satisfaction, not just marketing metrics. That's a fundamental change for a lot of marketing organizations and takes time to make that change, but you end up with a far more efficient, far more productive, far more profitable marketing effort at the end.
Is there anything around ROI that you use to kind of show clients that this is the approach that they should take?
Absolutely. I think that there is significant new technology that is making attribution tracking more complex. It's making it easier than just saying, okay, someone downloaded a white paper and now they're in Dynamics, and did they actually close or not, right? So I think it's fair to say that it's a 6-7 figure deal that takes 6 to 12 months to close probably didn't close because of the white paper. There's a lot of things that happened.
Right.
So that technology is making it easier to go upstream and look at how did the content impact people, how did an event impact people, what were the different touch points across sales and marketing, and then you can weight attribution against those to see what worked. And sometimes there are plenty of things that you just can't measure effectively. Like, a tweet can't be measured all the way through to a closed deal. But if you're taking that full funnel approach, if you're thinking not just about generating a lead, but also managing the stages of the sales cycle that the sales team is working, I think you can put the right content in the right stage based on the buying journey that every prospect goes through, and have far more precise, far more productive marketing as a result.
That's great advice. So I also want to kind of tap into one thing you said on your blog. So you mentioned on one of your blogs that you tell clients that they can't actually talk to prospects about their product or service during the first conversation. Yeah. And I know you kind of tell the sales guys that, but you say that forces a deeper conversation around the customer need, which is something we're really trying to get our partners to focus on. So how can marketers also learn from that approach?
It forces the right conversation up front, right? I mean, I summarize that by saying you have to sell the hole and not the drill. People go to a hardware store and they may buy a drill, but they're not interested in a drill, they're interested in a hole. And they're not really interested in a hole either. Like, there's some purpose that hole has.
Right.
So if you can understand what that means for your buyer, what that means for your prospect, what issues we are helping them deal with, what's the pain or problem or outcome you're sort of addressing for them, you get them to resonate with that. You get them to challenge their status quo around what's working today, and then commit to change. Commit to a change that's their change, not yours. You've established a fundamental baseline of need that you can then build on, right? Once you've established that need, now you can introduce a product or service that serves that need. If you do it the other way around, you've got very shaky ground in terms of a prospect actually committing to and fulfilling a relationship with you.
And when they focus on that need, do you ensure that kind of everything from their value proposition to all of the different channel marketing strategies really kind of align to that customer pain point or need?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think not only do you want to reinforce that need up front and sort of filter and drive demand based on that need, you have to reinforce that need through the process. For example, once you get into the sales process and you get a proposal in front of someone, no matter what you're selling, it's most common that you see a proposal that goes right into the tactics of what you're selling. But we know that those proposals are sometimes seen by decision makers and executive sponsors that haven't been part of the buying process to begin with. So reinforcing the why, reinforcing the need in those materials, like when we talked earlier about sales enablement, that's part of that, right? How does marketing help the sales team communicate that value in an ongoing way and continue to reinforce that, which just drives more velocity and conversion through the sales process.
Awesome. That's great advice. So really quickly, just want to touch on, from your perspective, how does ABM play into this kind of framework of full funnel marketing? I know that's a new concept for a lot of people. It's been popular kind of with marketers for the last year, but it's kind of broadening out to other aspects of the organization.
Yeah, account-based marketing, sort of we call it ABM, is it's really exciting to see it sort of come into fruition right now. It's forcing sales and marketing to work more closely together. ABM may be a new concept for marketers. But account-based selling has been around for forever for salespeople.
Right. And that's why a lot of marketers can then align better with the sales organization.
Absolutely.
If they think about accounts, that's how our sales folks think about it. Right?
Absolutely. And so, smart marketing teams have been aligning their sales efforts with target account marketing programs for a while. I think now we have technology that makes that easier. We have attribution tracking that makes that a little easier. I think it's a natural evolution of marketers starting to better align themselves around the sales objectives and create sort of one common approach to the customer as opposed to two, in many cases, totally disjointed approaches.
Absolutely. So I know we hit on a lot. So what are kind of the key takeaways for people to kind of walk away with and say, how do I get started with this approach? And what are the kind of core things I should think about?
Yeah, I mean, number one is just embrace revenue responsibility, right? As a marketer, embrace revenue responsibility. Know that your goal is not the middle of the funnel. Your goal is the end. And make sure you're triaging what you're doing based on that. Come up with some common objectives and common definitions with your sales organization. Really. Absolutely, right? You should be working from a single set of math that says how many deals, how big a pipeline, how many leads, in what time period, what's a good lead, what's a good opportunity. I mean, this sounds fundamental, but in most cases, sales and marketing have not developed these and agreed to these together.
Absolutely.
Do that work, and then honestly, think about the long play, but then think about those quick wins that can develop credibility for you as a marketing organization that is now thinking like a profit center, that is thinking in terms of revenue responsibility. We have not, as we say as marketers, we have trained the organization not to think of us as putting revenue and sales and customer value in as a priority. So I think the more we can earn that trust, the more we can exhibit that behavior, the better off we're going to be.
Awesome. Well, I think we got some great tips. Thanks to Matt for joining us today. And you can go to our marketing website at smartpartnermarketing.microsoft.com to learn more about marketing tips like these.